This is the Criterion Creeps podcast, and tonight we're talking about, well, the first two entries in the 6 Moral Tales box set, all directed by Eric Rohmer. So this is
only 6?
6. This is 2 down, 4 to go.
I could use 600. You know what I mean?
We are going to kick off with The Bakery Girl on MONTCEAU and Suzanne's Career, both in 1963.
Sure.
Directed by one Eric Rohmer. RJ, what do you know about Eric Rohmer?
Big Rom head.
Well, I mean, look, take it away. Tell me all.
So you want to hear about Eric Rohmer?
Okay. Oh, I know clearly you're pulling up your dissertation on him that you wrote.
Well, yes. I mean,
you're a little rusty.
I have several degrees, correct? Rohmer was last of the post-World War II French New Wave directors, Jarrett.
The last.
He was one of the last to become established, that is to say. He had many colleagues, Truffaut, Godard, and a lot of them had international attention. Rohmer did not. Rohmer, he was known for things like My Night at Maud's, won an Academy Award. He also did the Venom movie, and he is also he's a durable filmmaker. I'm sorry. It's too good. It's too funny because look at how he's ruined.
Look how RJ. He says it's funny. I know that because he's laughing at his own humor. Thanks, Oliver.
As my wife points out, I don't laugh at anyone's jokes more than I laugh at my own. That was right. A big build up to that. But Rohmer was Catholic, I should mention.
Oh, and don't forget, he was a literature professor and novelist, which I think is very evident with the style of these two first short films, which, RJ,
yes.
I gotta tell you, I messaged you something. Was it Sunday night? That I did something. When I saw that the Bakery Girl was like only 23 minutes long, and then I saw Suzanne's Career was like 54. Yeah.
What did you tell me that you did?
Well, I'm asking you. What did I tell you? I can't remember.
Would you like me to actually tell people what you said?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Documented?
Yeah, you go ahead.
Jared said that he did something in his trousers when he saw that the runtime of these two films.
I went in my pants?
I think it was something along those words.
Yeah, I was so relieved.
Yeah, something along those words.
Yeah, I mean, this is just like, it was a gift. It was a gift.
Yeah, I mean, it is pretty special for it to happen like that. Hey, I didn't realize that either, and I saw it, and I went, holy shit. I was like, this is my kind of week.
Mm-hmm.
And how.
So let's get to it.
Tell me about what all the ROM heads have been waiting for.
Well, let me tell you about Bakery Girl. That sweet 24-minute girl that she is. With a synopsis: early new wave effort from Rohmer, which was the first of his 6 Moral Tales. It concerns a young man who approaches a girl in the street, but after several days without seeing her again, he becomes involved with the girl in the local bakery. Eventually, he has to choose between them when he arranges dates with them on the same day. That isn't what happens. But
no, not even kind of.
Kind of, but not. Okay, so my sort of breakdown of this is local man, litterbug, stalker, jerk, cookie fiend, compulsive walker, thirsts for tall, thin woman. And in his pining for her when she disappears after they've had a brief meeting to maybe arrange another hangout session, he just winds up going to this local bakery that's kind of in the vicinity of where he's seen her walking around before, to make it look natural. And he just keeps like buying these cookies like every day. Maybe he seems like every hour.
Well, he mentions a lot about his stock pattern, right? Mm-hmm. So he has more time when it's at meals that he can kind of patrol the streets to look for this woman. And but he is sacrificing his meals at that time. So yeah, he's got a pastry up. So
carbo load.
He's got a carbo mode. The way I interpret it is that he's not eating. He is only working and stalking the streets.
And we never actually see him do work. It's just
no. He alleges that he's working.
Alleges.
Kinda.
Yeah, he it's him and his friend, and they're walking around, and there's this like comment. It's like, oh yeah, there's this girl. Yeah, she's real fetching. And then he's like, she goes, hey, let's like try to like create a scenario where we bump into each other.
You know, like you do.
Like you do. And then it happens, and they hit it off, kinda.
I mean, not even really. She's like...
Kinda. She was like...
He thinks so.
And she's like, she makes the mention, oh yeah, I see you walking around all the time. But he's like, oh, I'm sorry about that. Hey, maybe I'll buy a coffee sometime. And she's like...
Sometime, maybe?
She's like, yeah, maybe sometime. I'm busy tonight, but I see you around all the time, right? See you later. And he's like, well, you know, I think she had something for me. I think there was a real connection there. And so he sends her packing.
Yep.
Sorry. She sends him packing, and then he starts walking around the streets waiting to recreate that opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Well, and he does mention, there's a couple, just before the bump, he's like, she walks by and doesn't pay attention, and he says something along the lines of, she's not looking at us at all, and that means she knows we're here, because you can't like unfocus on someone that much without knowing they're there. Or it's I got a directing, but it's some real incel talk here, Jarrett.
Incel talk.
Which, I mean, I haven't mentioned before, but she's ignoring us too intently not to have noticed us.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean, Jarrett? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some talk like that, and yeah, he goes on the prowl. He says, "I'll find her. I'll get her." He says.
Get her. Well, so while he's wanting to get her, he's going in for cookies at this bakery, and there's this 18-year-old girl who works there, and I mean, initially she seems to be kind of just like, oh, it's just a guy, this big tall guy, and he orders cookies, and then he keeps coming over and over and over again, and you can see that she's starting to like kind of like him to a degree, where it's like he's kind of an oddity, this dude. And then he's like, I could tell that there's like an attraction there, but I mean, she wants me. She's not really my type. I'm not really that interested in her. But maybe I do like that idea of someone wanting me. Maybe that's kind of interesting. And so he starts kind of working this like angle. So there's this voiceover narration. So two things here. Number one, do you know who's playing our incel tonight, RJ, in Bakery Girl?
I believe... I don't know.
Okay, so I didn't really know this till I was like going back through my notes and stuff like that, and like looking stuff up, and I was like, oh, it's Barbara Schroeder, the director of Coco and Talking Gorilla and General Idi Amin Dada.
I mean, I saw that Barbette Schroeder was in
he's
credits,
also a producer, but he actually plays the guy. That's him.
Wow.
But so his narration though is done by another French director, Bertrand Tavernier, because I guess Barbara Schroeder didn't have the voice. He couldn't do the performance the way that Rohmer wanted it. So the voiceover was done by another director. But yeah, that's Barbara Schroeder.
Strange.
Yeah.
Strange.
Yeah. So I kind of wonder like how a film like this, if somebody like made this now, like this story, how it would be received by the Twitterverse.
I have an idea.
Yeah, I don't think it would be made the same way that it is, but it's curious because I mean I don't think Rohmer's rooting for this guy at all. I think that he is pretty critical of how shabbily all his male protagonists in these two movies kind of behave, but they're also positioned as the main characters, and so you're kind of stuck in their worldview, and he writes it in such a way that I think it's easy for contemporary audience members to assume, well, this is what the director thinks, but it's like no, that's what the character thinks.
Yeah,
like so. Yeah. I felt that while watching this, and I will say that actually I did like this short film.
Okay.
I think it's kind of like pretty short. It's got that sort of ambiguous short story ending where it's just like abrupt, and because this guy like has this sort of above it all kind of attitude, And it has like sort of this tension to it that's kind of going on where he's like walking around a lot. It's shot all in location. No sets were used. It's just like on the street, and there's like because initially it opens up with us like where what's the street corners are called, and I'm like, I don't know Paris from
But you don't know
Italy.
Mayor McGrath?
Yeah, exactly. Who doesn't know the mayor, Mayor McCheese? And so to me, I'm always like, I don't get anything out of that sort of thing because I've never been to these places, but it's kind of thrown in there because this is about a character kind of circulating in around a space, and then there's this like kind of him like this initial like little mini arc of him trying to find her, and then he winds up with this bakery girl and this back and forth before he starts pursuing her on the street and kind of like cornering her into going on a date. And she's kind of like, initially she seemed pretty receptive to this idea, but then she's like, when it's actually proposed that they hook up, maybe she's kind of like, no, I don't think so. I'm not going to be here for very long. I'm not going to be living here very much longer. I'm going to be moving along. But he's not taking no for an answer, RJ.
Well, there's a lot of talk of what happens if they do say no, and I think we're all aware of what that means.
I think there's some real nice little film beat there where the bakery girl, she goes to get she's supposed to give him 2 cookies because he's asking for 1 cookie, but if she gives him an extra cookie, that means that she's game to go out that night. And there's like the thing where she goes over to get that cookie and she looks over at him and then she picks up the second cookie. I thought that was really good. That's it's nice.
She's playful.
Yeah, nice little thing, and it works. Yep. And then so they're supposed to hang out. They're going to hang out that night, and what do you know it? As he's scarfing down cookies or whatever, this and he's sort of like distracted in his own mind with his voiceover narration. He doesn't see the girl that he'd been like stalking around looking for this whole time. She comes limping down the street because she broke her foot. And he's like, oh shit. Well, I mean, that's who I'm really interested in, and she seems to be interested in me now all of a sudden, far more than any reason she would have to have. And well, so long, bakery girl. And there's like this brutal moment where like she like the girl that he's supposed to meet, she goes inside for like a few minutes and then she's just gone for hours, and he's just hanging out in this little alcove in the rain.
Yeah, and he's just like, well, the bakery girl could come out at any time,
and that would be.
I hope she doesn't.
And then of course, the broken foot woman comes out, and they start walking down the street, and there's just this like, well, I like to assume that the bakery girl wouldn't have gotten out and saw us walking down the street, but I didn't turn around to look to see if that were the case. It's like, I'm over that. And then it's like, oh, by the way, 6 months later, we were engaging to be married.
Which I thought was a little fast, because she didn't seem that interested, but I guess she was. She approached him, so.
Look at that.
So, Jarrett, I got to ask you something.
Yo.
What is the moral tale of the bakery girl?
What are these moral tales?
What is this moral tale? What is the morality of the story? What are we supposed to learn from this?
What are we working toward here? Well, I mean, he chose the girl that he was most interested in at the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
I understand. Yeah. I understand. That's the morality, I suppose.
I don't know.
Morality.
I don't know if that is what it's saying. I don't know if you want to call it. Let's see here. I don't think it's like what it's. I don't think it's supposed to be an instruction. I think you're.
Okay.
I think you're bringing your own baggage of morale to.
Well,
to
I mean,
this.
What is the title of this collection?
The six moral tales, and this is the first installment. Yeah.
Yeah, and so when I watched this, I went, "Well, what is the moral tale of this film?" I didn't think that was a crazy question.
No, but I'm curious, like what you mean?
I just thought these were all going to be like moral tales, like don't eat cheese before noon. So Squeaky wheel gets the grease.
So Rohmer said His intention was not to film raw events, but the narrative that someone makes of them, the story, the choice of facts, their organization, not the treatment that I could have made them to submit to. One of the reasons that these tales are called moral is that physical actions are almost completely absent. Everything happens in the head of the narrator. Using the word moral does not mean that there is a moral in the story. According to Rohmer, so contes moraux doesn't really mean that there's a moral contained in them, even though there might be one, and all the characters in these films act according to certain moral ideas that are fairly clearly worked out. Also, Rohmer said, they are films which a particular feeling is analyzed, and where even the characters themselves analyze their feelings and are very introspective.
Okay, so I know Rohmer's saying that.
Yep.
But I have an alternative for you. I'm going to make a collection called 6 Jungle Tales.
Okay.
And they're all going to take place in the desert.
But
it's like maybe the jungle was inside you all along.
I guess jungles exist though, as do deserts. But what are morals, RJ?
What are morals? Yeah. I'll say 6 metaphor tales, and it'll just be
not metaphors.
Not metaphors. I know it's probably me doing the weird thing I do, but it's like I thought these were all supposed to be moral tales.
I think this is your Catholic school shit coming up.
Well, I thought it was. It said it was a moral tale. I thought it was supposed to be a moral tale. So the whole time I was watching this, I was like, "What the fuck is the morality of this?"
There's no.
I don't get this.
No priest shows up to tell you.
Well, I just like, in my mind, the morality was like, "Hey, fuck around." And then when you get what you want, bail. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That was the morality that saw.
It's the characters deciding what to do in that moment. The decisive moment of like, ooh, what's he going to do? Well, he makes a decision. And,
I guess
and there's no punishment. He's not even going to hell. Not even a little bit.
Well, I think that's what it is. In my mind, moral means good. And good would be like, it's like, well, you're kind of letting that girl down that you set up and then you bailed on. So, mm-hmm. I mean, that's where I was like, you could have at least just been like, hey, man, something came up. Talk to you later.
Let us define moral. Concerned with the principles of right and wrong behavior and the goodness or badness of human character.
Yeah.
There you go.
That's what I thought.
Well, let me tell you, RJ.
Okay.
It's not like, jungles?
Yeah. Are they ever on the moon? 6 jungle tales. It's all going to take place on the moon. I don't think
the circumstances for which a jungle could emerge could happen on the moon as the moon exists right now.
What's either good jungle or bad jungle?
Well, there's no dense forest or tangled vegetation, usually in tropical climates on a moon.
Well, I mean,
unless it's like a metaphorical
maybe it's
jungle.
a metaphorical jungle inside of all of us.
The jungle inside of us.
We used to say that some of those characters aren't the jungle themselves. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not the main character, but maybe one of the characters is the jungle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Welcome to the jungle.
So what did you think of the bakery girl?
I didn't much care for it, Jarrett.
Yeah.
I thought this guy was a creepy incel.
Yeah.
Stalking women in the streets. And I just thought he was really unkind to the bakery girl.
He was. Because, yes, he was. All those things are true.
In my mind, I thought this was supposed to be like a moral tale. I know I'm really hammering this point, but I was like,
you thought he was going to get his just desserts? He wasn't going to get his cookie.
Kinda.
Isn't that like the real world, RJ?
Yeah,
bad people do bad things all the time, and nothing bad happens to them. They just keep doing bad things.
Yeah. I know, I agree, but that's why I think some people look to moral tales to be like reassured that it's like, hey, if you do the right thing, eventually maybe something will turn out. But hey, even if you don't, if you do the wrong thing, something bad is going to happen, which I know isn't realistic. But
no.
Yeah, when this ended, I was kind of like, wait a minute. I was like, what was I supposed to take out of that? So anyways, this dude's a real bad dude. That's like obvious.
He's a dude.
Well, I mean, he's littering, Jarrett.
He is, yeah.
He's stalking women.
The littering's wild. Like he's just literally throwing it into like the sewage drain. Like he's got his like parchment paper, just tossing it away. You're like, whoa, buddy. And I'm like, again, this is 1963. This is yeah. He's doing it constantly.
Yeah, but they show it like 6 times zoomed in, so it's very emphasized. Where you're just like,
I'm not sure where I'm not sure where we were with littering in 1963.
I mean, people like were fine with it, but to make such a point of it, I thought was strange.
Remember that episode of Mad Men? Where at the end of the picnic, they just like fucking walk away from the picnic, and you're like, what the fuck are they doing? That's like in like within about 5 years of this movie actually being made, and it's one of those things that I think people do talk about. It's like so startling to see people, because I think littering's kind of been hammered into us, because it's like a consideration thing. And this guy clearly isn't very considerate.
No, not of the planet, not of other people.
The planet,
Mother Earth, Jarrett. You know about Mother Earth?
Mm-hmm.
We only got one. We only got one. So, anyways, this guy was a real dink.
Yeah,
I was really confused at what I was supposed to take away from this, and I went, I don't like him. He's not a nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't actively dislike this thing. I was just by the end of it, I was kind of like, when your eyes are a little bit I was like, what does this mean? And then I went, I'm not going to think about it. And I turned on the next one. I said, let's see what the next moral tale
you
is.
You want to find out about Suzanne's career?
I thought was supposed to be a tale of morality.
Oh, boy.
So,
all right. So, number 2 in the 6 moral tales. This is the second moral tale, Suzanne's career. Also from the same year, I guess. In the second of Rohmer's moral tales, he examines the relationship between 2 friends and a girl who at first appears easily exploited. It is a complex tale of feelings and misconceptions acted out within the head of the main character as part of Rohmer's attempt to more easily simulate the mindscape quality of literature within a film. So even the synopsis doesn't know how to talk about this. Does
anyone know how to talk about Rohmer picks?
This nonsense. Well, I mean, I could talk about the first one pretty easily. Suzanne's career, though, it's a different kettle of fish.
Okay.
So, this is Bakery Girl Redux in a lot of ways. It's 2.5 times longer, like nearly an hour, and it's not better for it.
Yeah.
So
I agree.
Yeah, so this is about two dudes, Bertrand and his buddy Guillaume, and their relationship to this woman named Suzanne. And it's kind of this like back and forth of you're trying to go along with this narrative of this guy, the guy's friend, who's just like a kind of a piece of crap. Like, so
he's a shitty dude.
Yeah, they're both
no morality.
They're not great. They're not both great guys. And I don't know if you've ever seen the film In the Company of Men. Probably not. I don't think so. At this point, it's a fairly obscure like 90s indie drama, but this reminded me of that in some ways. But that movie's like got Aaron Eckhart, Two-Face, Harvey Dent as opposed to Duella Dent.
Duella Dent, yes, yeah. I'm aware. I'm aware of Duella.
Yeah, but he's like he's a big time jerk in that. But that movie is like really amps up the misogyny to a 90s level of where it's trying to be like, hey, but we're aware of it, boys. But at the same time, I think it also is a lot of fuel to that fire. In terms of like the wrong kind of guys will watch it and be like, yeah, this is some good new material.
Ooh. Okay. He does get he's got some zingers, some opinions, man.
Got some opinions,
like some of the stuff he says. Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, there's just a lot of scenes inside of apartments and cafes and
it's French New Wave, baby.
Nightclubs. Yep, to the max. And I don't know, it just like never really connected for me as much because Suzanne just kind of takes it all. Like she kind of brings on these like the abuse, and they're always like, you know, she's paying for everything because she's like the one that's like she's got a job, and at every opportunity it's like, oh, I'll pay for everything. Don't worry, I'll take care of it. Even though she's like clearly being like depleted because like she's not that kind of rich, but these guys are kind of like, well, let's see how far we can push that.
So there's a few things that happens in this film, Jarrett. So like at first you get introduced to these two dudes. Girlfriend's dating the one, and he's not very kind to her, and he's a little inappropriate. And you get the longest Ouija board scene.
Oh my god!
Where you get every letter.
A, B. I totally
knocked out.
Put that out of my mind.
Yeah, and I know why you would.
Because it's brutally long.
It's like
I don't even know.
It's like a 50-minute movie. It's a solid 10 minutes of it.
Yeah, pretty
for sure. Like easily.
In the payoff, the joke of it is like, I want to bang you. You're like, whoa.
So yeah, and that's the kind of guys.
I feel like filmmaking's come a long way.
Yeah, I gotta bang ya. That's some Fred Olin Ray stuff. Even he was better than that.
Yes.
Because he would have made the Ouija board scene 10 seconds, maybe a minute tops, and he would have been like, "We don't want to beat a dead horse here. We gotta keep moving." That's Fred.
We just want to beat on meat.
Hey, oh. So, anyways, guy's dating girl, where he courts her and he uses Buddy to court her, with the Ouija board scene, and then he gets her and then he loses interest really quick. But he's just like, she pays for stuff, whatever. Well, it's actually not quite yet, but he's like, whatever. I don't give a shit. We'll let her go. And then she goes after the Buddy because she's like, well, you were always nice. And he's like, well, I'm not really interested in you. And she's like, that's fine. Let's just hang out. Let's just be friends. And he's like, I don't have any. She's like, let's go for coffee. He's like, I don't have money. And she's like, I'll buy you coffee. And he's like, okay. So she starts buying him stuff. And then this guy, because he's a weak man also, he is also lured in by this alpha sigma male, because he's just like, hey, she's got money, we should, because he doesn't like that friend of his, not really, but he's like, hey, do you know she's got money? And he's like, really? He's like, maybe we can capitalize on this. So he starts hanging around again. They both take the money, and then what happens is Buddy, main guy, he's
Bertrand.
Just like, well, Bertrand, because girls always like, well, I do like you, and he's like, yeah, I know, but I kind of like this other girl. And then he gets her, and then as soon as he gets her, other girl is just like, all right, well, I'm moving on. So she finds someone else, and then when she does find someone else, then our Gertrude guy is just like, oh, maybe she was pretty after all. and then he's like, and then the morality here, Jarrett, the moral tale, he's just like, well, I let her pay for stuff, I wasn't really interested, and then when I couldn't get her, dang, I realized I wanted her. And then hard cut to black. Because the story of this one is just like, man, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I went, I understand the morality of this one, baby.
That's what I want. That's what I need.
I said, I see what they're saying. They're saying, don't take stuff for granted.
Well, there's also like there's the other romantic interest in this, who I guess
the girl?
Is it Sophie?
Yeah.
I think she's Irish.
Something like that.
Yeah. Well, because she's definitely like I don't know. She's definitely the more interesting of the two characters, because she seems to be like have a personality. I'm not sure if that's just like the story, I guess, but like, I felt like the fixated Suzanne, like, you know, the titular Suzanne, I feel like she's just kind of like, I don't know, boring. Like, she's just along. She states nothing. She's just kind of along. She pays for stuff, and it seems like they're like, yeah, like she's just like along for the ride. And I don't think there's enough to hang on. I'd be like I'm not interested in this to hang out with any of these people. But like, and then obviously there's like the Sophie character I thought was like immediately far more interesting. I think she's the one going on about snobbish things, as we Instagram posted. She seems to be like a kind of a dramatic character. She's like something out of like a Woody Allen sort of story. And that's another thing too, is you get some Woodrow Allen doing sort of the same ballpark of like characters, of messed up characters. And I think he does it quite a bit better, where it's fun to watch. Where this drags along, and you're just like, huh, these are just people. And there's like no, to me, like I felt like this one had like none of the satisfaction of like a short story, I guess. This just kind of felt like, oh, then a bunch of scenes happen. It's like French New Wave in the worst ways, but without any of the cinematic flair of like a Godard, where it's like he loves a living room. He loves them.
Godard?
Oh, yeah.
That's his safe place, baby. He doesn't leave the living room.
Yeah, he likes those bedrooms hanging out in there. This is kind of like, no, we're not going to do anything about that. We're just going to hone in on this so-called drama and this narration over like, well, I get why she's interesting, but at the same time, let's do a Ouija session.
Just to see for sure. You should just like see for sure that she's cool and can have fun. Do you think that's what that Ouija session's about?
Maybe. And then she just kind of goes, I don't know. You're like,
how does she do it?
I don't know.
Okay.
That's I think pretty convincing, right?
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify that.
And then it all ends on a boat a year later. Apparently, everything's working out just great. Bertrand, he's hanging out with Sophie. Suzanne's got a new fiance. He's got money. They seem to be happy together. But then, of course, our narrator says, "Yeah, well, things aren't working out with Sophie." And then Bertrand's like, "You know what? Maybe I was wrong."
Yeah, and he says, and then she has gotten her final revenge.
She won.
Which I mentioned in my review that it's alleged sexual espionage or something, because like the implication is that she was working towards this the whole way, where it's like I am now interested in her, but she is no longer interested.
Well, yeah,
in me.
there's this like, well, I mean, there is this element of where like there's this like, oh, they're always taking pity on her.
Yeah, because they treat her like shit.
Well, they're like, well, I mean, look at her. She's so pathetic. I mean, we don't even have to respect her very much. But look at it. And everything worked out for her well anyway. I mean, maybe that really stuck it to us.
They say, man, we sure zing. Yeah, she sure zinged us.
No.
And you go, did she? Did you?
Got him.
Yeah, so that's a moral tale. What do you think the morality of this one is?
What is the morality of this one?
Yeah.
Like I said, this is the one that of the two I didn't really connect that much with.
Jive with?
Yeah, I felt like this, and again, it felt like, oh, it's the same thing again, which sounds like the next four are pretty well iterations of the same idea.
Are those also 20 minutes?
No, they're feature lengths. So they probably, as directors get older, their films just get longer. Yeah, so I mean, the moral tale here, I guess, is just people.
Be nice to people?
People thinking about things and about how to treat people, I guess. And I don't know. There's nothing to, I mean, again, this is my view of like what morals, I guess, are.
Sure.
I don't know if I would consider myself a moral person, because I don't know if most people are.
I wouldn't say you are.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, but I would probably be considered moral by not RJ. But I don't think of it that way. I mean, yeah, it's one of those things where like, I don't know, I don't like have like it's like a, you know, it's not like a code of conduct.
It's not a kuna matata.
Yeah.
Nothing to hold you liable to.
That's right.
I see.
No.
I mean, people can write in and think if we're moral people or not, or they don't need to. We can turn comments off.
It's a matter of perspective, because I mean, everyone has probably an inner monologue.
I mean, it is a matter of perspective. I'm pretty sure Stalin thought he was moral.
Probably. Probably RJ.
He thought what he was doing was pretty good, right?
Yeah, when he was stalking those girls in France.
Yeah, he's eating all those cookies, and he's just like, "Oh, I'm gonna get you."
Getting those crumbs in his mustache, in his push broom.
Yeah, and he's "I'm gonna get you." No. I'm gonna sweep you out of here.
Wiggling those eyebrows.
And we all went, "Oh, Joe, Sleepy Joe,
Yo, Joe,
Yo, Joe." Yeah, so that was crazy.
No.
Yeah.
And how are you about this?
You know, I mean, not good.
not great.
I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't think I understood either of these, and not even understood. I was just like, I mean, I knew what was happening.
But there's pictures and they're moving on the screen.
There's pictures and there's moving, but like, yeah, I don't know. Like, I know that both of these things happen daily to people all over.
Yeah.
There's always shitty people. And there's people who manipulate other people, and there's always going to be situations where someone, like a lady, is going to get manipulated by two guys. But I was kind of like, the way it ended was the thing that kind of like really threw me, where he's just like, she's had her revenge. Where I was kind of like, is this thing trying to say that like,
I don't think that's what. I don't think that.
Like, yeah, I know. So I know you don't. I'm just saying. Is that what it's trying to say?
That's not. I don't think that's what the film is trying to say. That is what the character's perception is.
But isn't the film about the character? Like, he's the lead character. So like,
it is telling us. It is telling. Well, what is your interpretation of what the film is saying about this character in this scenario?
Like throughout the whole thing.
Yeah, like how what does it have to say about Morbius? So like, yeah, like, I mean, if again, this is when I was mentioning the Twitter thing about a movie like this being made. So it's like, this is where there's, I think, a line of like, what is this film saying about the situation, rather than what is the character who thinks this is revenge, because this is about the character in their view of what's occurred. But we've also watched.
Yes.
Yeah, like there's like kind of like, I don't know. There's this like, we can't even call it an objective reality, because we're kind of like, we have a narration that's kind of going to influence how we're viewing the situation as it plays out. But we're also like locked. We don't have to be locked into the character, because I don't think that the filmmaker, Rohmer, is sympathetic to to this guy.
I agree with you. I do think it's harder to take that stance though when the character is the narrator.
Right.
Which I know that's not,
yeah, that's a thing that happens.
Yeah, I know unreliable narrators are a thing and stuff like that. But
yeah, because even a narrator isn't like, even like, like I made that comment about like how people have their own narrations in their heads about what of how they operate in the world, because we've been kind of like led into this by our culture, that like we're in a it's like, there's like media and stories that always come about saying, this is your story and this is our narrative, and now like there's like these like these chuds online who are always talking about, that's the narrative being sold, like that's like that's the language we use. It's like this, it's fucked up how like video games and movies and like all like all these like novels, the narrative has kind of like come to dominate the way that we talk about not only like reality, which doesn't make any sense, but I mean, it's also like court cases. Like lawyers tell narratives, and that has nothing to do with like reality of the case. It's about winning a case and keeping your client from going to jail or sending someone to jail, is by creating a narrative, and you use evidence to connect those dots, and you try to create the most compelling version of it. And I think a combination of how law is sort of practiced in media, and like how how prevalent all media, like story, like media narrative is in every wake of our life, it's impacted us in the way that we think about things. And so I think it's curious when you watch a movie about a character that you do not like or relate to, and then you go, why does this exist? Why is this happening? And like, we all encounter that. Like, I think before this sort of hijacking, I guess, of how we interpret things, and where it's like it seems like this is the way it's always been, but it hasn't always been this way. I think there's a period of time where like no one thought about themselves in this way, but it's very difficult to like get outside of that mindset. So you watch this movie from like 63, where this is like the media diet of people is like nowhere near this. Like television's like in its infancy and is there basically for commercials and news. And then movies are like what people go to see, and they're starting to see themselves on the screen. So these like new wave films are trying to like break from that and be like, hey, let's have like a straight up kind of a loser, like a guy who's just like, this is not a great guy, but this is actually more of an accurate image of like how people do behave. Why he picks on these particular figures, it's us trying to imagine what the director's intent is, which I think is also a flaw in like the way that we think about things, because it's not about what the director's intent is. That's always like a kind of I feel like a fallacy, or what they think, right? Like when I was reading like what he meant by the moral thing, when you were asking me about that, I was like, well, this is what the director had to say, how he framed what he talks about when he's talking about morality. Because I watched these, and I mean, that didn't even stick up. That didn't stick up to me at all. It's like, oh, this doesn't fit. This doesn't seem like a moral tale. To me, I'm like, it's just a title. It seems almost arbitrary. So that all being said, so by the end of this, you have this character who's like framework is like he has to explain away that, oh, I didn't get what I wanted, but she did, so she won, which she didn't. Like she's just not even playing the game that he is, because she had no idea that like she was being pitied or being like, taken advantage of by these guys. She's just like, oh, I'm moving on with my life, and this guy's like, oh yeah, she got revenge on me, because he's still a loser. Like he and like, but he still has to frame it that way. Is that how I'm kind of dissatisfied at the moment, and like this is like a moment in this character's existence too. If you think about them as being a real person and the extent of their entire reality, of like they're gonna have ups and downs. Things may work out really well for them, but in that very moment, he's still this like petty man who is still like measuring his own life against like an old flame, and like I don't know. That's all it is. And I guess it is just like, yeah, here's a guy. And like, what is the morality of it all? It's like, I don't know. Don't be like this guy.
Yeah, I mean that's one way to take it.
I mean, is this the most interesting version of that story? No. And that's what I kind of failed to respond to with this movie, the Suzanne's career.
Sure.
To me, I feel like this what I've just described is more interesting than what I think I got out of the film. Other than if one could claim, well, it stimulated this conversation about about that. I'm at the same time like, I wouldn't watch this movie again. I wouldn't recommend people watch it either. So I don't know. I'd move along.
Well, in terms of creating taking control of your own narrative, Jarrett, and like
controlling your narrative.
And not trying to assume what the director is doing or
muscle
characters, milk? The muscle milk or characters. What is the narrative, the true narrative of the Three Worlds of Gulliver? What is the true narrative of that film?
It's
you know what I mean?
That's biting. It's biting and skewering.
I know you're not a fan of elements of that film. But is it the character or is it director or is it the narrative?
It's I think
or is it the morality?
I will say, if we're
or is art not real?
Art is something, like everything.
Which is always a fallback.
Yeah, art is something. It's something.
Could be.
It happens. It happens.
It does. No, I know what I do understand what you're saying. I know it's easy to take this or that. My fallback always too is like no matter what some like the directors will say or actors will say about what they did. I think the weird thing about movies is a director will be like, this is what I think of the movie. And the writer will be like, well, this is how I think of the movie. I wrote it. And then the actors will be like, well, this is how I interpret the character. So they all kind of put their own slices into it.
And none of it matters.
And none of it matters because I take the Aronofsky approach, like the Mother thing, where he's kind of like, as soon as you put your art out into the world, it's not yours anymore. It's other people's, which some people don't agree with, but it's kind of like as soon as you make that thing, you put it out there, other people are going to take it and turn it into whatever they want it to.
Yeah. Well,
or they have the potential to do that.
Mother's always an interesting film because it's like I've read multiple interpretations, I guess, of it, and none of them are the same as mine. Yep. And I'm like,
because you put it out there and people interpret it however they want.
And it performed poorly. People did not like that at all because the people don't want that kind of experience, I guess, or a lot of mainstream audiences who want to go, I want to see that new Jennifer Lawrence movie. Looks scary. It looks like a real thrill ride. And then it's like, what is this about? It's about like an artist creating things, and it's horrifying. Oh my goodness! And it's like, what? And this is her, and that's the victim. Oh Jesus! There's babies being dismembered. Yeah.
You go, dear.
F cinema score.
Yes.
It's like Dr. T and the women and his women, whatever it's called.
Dr. T and the medicine. Dr. Quinn, medicine woman.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Is that who we're talking about?
Yeah. Dr. T and his women.
I see.
Yeah.
Look at the stimulated conversation that these moral tales have evoked.
And having to argue for depictions of thof things. I am really curious when 35 years from now we'll watch the Decalogue. All of those. I think you'll like those quite a bit more than what.
I'm not going to be alive, Jarrett.
That's possible. We'll keep you alive.
Don't kid yourself.
We're going to have that GoFundMe.
Don't kid yourself. I will not be alive.
You guys will have me. You'll be like Captain Pike, and you'll have the little boop, boop, boop,
boop. And you're like, what'd you think? Boop, 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 boop.
Is that poop, 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 poop?
It could be. It could be, depending on the movie.
No.
It's all about narratives.
It's all about narratives.
Oh, well. So what's your next narrative, Jarrett?
The narrative of who hates these films.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
I don't know. I don't hate these films. I just
don't care.
I'm not a fan.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, so first off, we got Ayla, 1 star. Okay. Men really need to stop stalking women thinking it's romantic. Which means, what should they be thinking instead? Maybe they should just stop stalking women.
Maybe women need to make the first move. You know what I mean?
Oh.
Take control of the narrative.
That's right.
Right, Jarrett?
Seize the day.
Carpe diem, my friends.
Mm-hmm.
This person likes things like Parasite and Network and Stolen Kisses, which is strange that they like that one. I mean, just because it's like, it feels like it's not part of their aesthetic. But they half-starred Harold and Maude, and they half-starred Licorice Pizza. So
there you go.
Strange.
They don't, yeah.
Strange.
How about Ruby Howling?
Okay.
Or Rue by Howling, 1 star. A story about a garbage man who refuses to use a garbage can.
I mean, I think that's okay. They only have 1 5-star film, and it's They Came Together, which is a Amy Poehler, Paul Rudd movie, which is like, it's kind of like a spoof movie.
Okay.
And I'm okay with that. And they have a couple half-star films, but the only one of note is Venom, Let There Be Carnage. The second one, Jared.
Huh.
It's the second one.
Interesting.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
This is for Suzanne's career.
All right.
We got Francesca de Roquefort, 1 star. This feels really slight and bogged down, even for its 55-minute runtime. Would probably have been better at about the length of MONTCEAU, if I'm being honest. I'm kind of glad it ends with Suzanne winning a kind of moral victory, and the commentary on the mild-mannered dudes who turn out to be worse than outright sexist is topical to today, I suppose. But this felt difficult to get through in any case. Too thin for Rohmer's purposes in a way his later films wouldn't suffer from to the same degree.
Do you want to hear about this person?
Sure.
Here's a bio, Jarrett. I'm basically an artistic subjectivist by this point. I think it's both a more interesting way for me to approach films personally, rather than trying to assess the objective qualities of everything, and also more rewarding insofar as I think cinema flourishes when there's more diversity of taste. I'm open about my biases, however, and I find auteur theory to often be an interesting lens through which to view cinema, which is why there's more, which is why I will often talk in terms of filmographies and wider projects rather than taking each film as a single unit.
You know that meme of the guy going
walking
oof, and it's like it's like turned all the way up, and he's going
the oof meter. Oof. With that said, that's actually in here, not me saying that. With that said, I'm not a nitpicker, and most complaints I have with films are more often than not post hoc rationalizations of why I did or didn't like something. I experience movies as a whole, as they either work for me on some level, aesthetic, intellectual, visceral, or not. I'm also
get off the stage. No.
While I think I can appreciate almost any type of
how
film,
can they still be talking?
I prefer certain types of films to others. I love boldy, stylish, formalist, classist films that don't feel constrained by the standards of plausibility in going for a bigger emotional or cerebral impact, which is why I often favor melodrama. For example,
come on!
More than many mainstream critics, I gravitate often to films about women. I love romance, sincerity, and wonder. I would rather a film be flawed by interesting than technically great, but something I'll never think about again. The best films live with me for not just 2 hours, but for the rest of my life after all. Jarrett, would you like to hear the ranking system?
Oh, they've written it out, huh?
Yeah, they have.
Of course
they have multiple paragraphs for every star rating, like more than that.
No way.
No
one cares, Francesca.
Their ranking is bigger than
cares.
The bio.
No one cares.
1 star is an umbrella rating for any film I, in the main, disliked or had no real interest in, covering all the way from worst film I've ever seen up to just plain dull. It goes on for a while. It is not good. So anyways, this is a person who has a Letterboxd account, and they make all sorts of things on their films. So there's something to be said about that.
Jordan Dilger, 1.5 stars. Sure. I've now watched all 6 of the Moral Tales. It's less 6 tales and more 1 tale 6 times. The incel energy is especially strong in this one. It's not even 1 hours, and it still manages to drag. How does that sound to you, RJ? We got 4 more incel picks
of the
to go.
sin. I don't know. I mean, Jordan Dillinger might be onto something. He only has like 6 5-star films: The Matrix, Taxi Driver, Total Recall, Paths of Glory, The Godfather, and Paddington.
Wow, is this you?
Pretty quality films, if you ask me, Jarrett.
Okay.
Quality.
Well, got any final words on Mr. Rohmer?
No.
We're going to be facing off against him once again, but we're going to be joined by a friend along the way in 2 weeks.
Allegedly.
We'll see if that happens. Well, Dan, there you go.
Mm-hmm.
After the break, we're going to throw this podcast right into the sewer.
The sewer?
We're going to bunch it up and just toss it right in there. Fuck it.
Littering end.
Revenge.
Littering end.